Yes, indeed. Welcome into another episode of Total Hockey Now here on the Total Hockey Now Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook network. I am at Pucking Thoughts. My line mates, as always, back in form, just a couple of days later than usual this week, but ready to rock. At Ant Rivera 86. Busy day for him over at the Subway to Shea podcast. A lot going on in Queens right now with the Mets. And then the man down to below me is there, Christopher Murray at Fuzzy Chris 91. Busy day for Anthony, I see here.
Yeah, way too busy, and not a good busy for the Mets, but a good busy for me because I'm getting a lot of traffic on my channel, which I appreciate.
Well, there you go. I mean, you got Chris Kreider attempting to throw mouthpieces in the stands, and then what? You got Jorge Lopez throwing gloves in stands. So, I mean, it's just, par for the course right now in New York.
Yeah, you just can't get rid of Chris Kreider after something like that. Jorge Lopez, a different story. Chris Kreider, you can't get rid of that, a key cog in the Rangers offense.
Although not as much lately, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But nonetheless, here we're going to talk. Rangers-Panthers got Game 5 coming up here in a couple hours. Talk Stars-Oilers. We'll go through the coaching carousel. We'll talk about the couple of names that potential options for the Utah hockey franchise that were revealed on the Pat McAfee show, plus a couple others that might be in the mix there. But don't forget, folks, we appreciate you all tuning in. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Total Hockey Now on all those platforms. Excited to be here with you. And I guess let's just jump right into it, because tonight we got a big game tonight. For the 7th time in the last 20 years, we're going to have at least 6 games in both conference finals. First up is tonight, the Rangers and the Panthers. We've got 3 straight overtime games in this series. Just kind of recapping since where we've been in the past week, game 1 kind of went as expected. The Rangers had the big win against the Hurricanes in game 6, a little bit of a letdown. Florida took full advantage of that in game 1. Rangers played strong in game 2. They survived a late Florida rally in game 3, both of those going to overtime, and then they were just outplayed by Florida in game 4. So one of the criticisms that we hinted at right off the top line's been a little off in this series. Mika Zibanejad, Chris Kreider, and what was Jack Roslovic. It looks like Philip Hedl is going to get his chance to get that line going tonight. So let's start with initial impressions of the series, because I think we all agree a split after 4 games in the series is what we all expected. Nobody expected a 3-1 lead for anybody, I don't think.
And it does feel like that the Panthers have kind of been in charge for most of the series, and the Rangers found a way, especially in game 3, like you said, surviving that rally to steal one, and were able to keep this series tied at 2. I always thought that this was going 7. I still am going to stand by that. You mentioned the top line of the Rangers, but there was a guy that I mentioned when the playoffs started, how important this guy was to this team, because what he showed, almost MVP, quality play in Artemi Panarin, and he has also been absolutely quiet in this series. You can't win this series if that top line and Panarin are not scoring goals. You just can't.
That's incredibly fair. I feel like it's just par for the Rangers here. They're not really generating a ton of shots on goals. Their chances are not that great. Give credit to the Florida Panthers. They are a very good hockey team. They are reminding the world that they deserve to be here. But I would say by far, Igor Shesterkin has been the reason that this series is tied at 2. If it wasn't for him, this would be New York going home down probably 3-1, and the odds being very bleak of them coming back. But as we've seen, goalies who get hot, goalies who stand on their head, and sometimes they steal a win for your team. So credit to Igor Shesterkin. Doesn't speak English apparently very well, but he understands that he has to keep the puck out of the net, and that's all we really care for about goalies. Just keep the puck out of your net. The rest will figure itself out.
Completely agree on Shesterkin that he has just been, maybe the numbers aren't like what you would expect, but I mean, he is, if you're watching the games, he's the reason that the Rangers are in the series. Anthony, Ant mentioned Panarin, Lafreniere and Trocheck are at least doing their parts from that second line. So that it kind of masks what Panarin's lacking, at least at the moment. But, the thing is, and yes, you could say the Rangers haven't played their best hockey yet, but I don't think Florida's even played their best hockey yet in the series. And that's what kind of scares me here is like, we got a split, but, and yes, the Rangers haven't played their best hockey yet, and they're kind of getting lucky and surviving against a very good team. But Florida has not played their best hockey yet either.
No, they definitely not. And you mentioned Filipino being on the top line. It'll be Kreider, Zibanejad, Hedl, and then you said Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere, and that third line is where Roslovic's going with Wenberg and Kako. I talked about this on Twitter yesterday as being somewhat of a maybe a turning point in this series. Look, Jacob Trouba has been doing his best to completely destroy everyone in the playoffs or anyone in his path. And if I remember correctly, was it Sam? I don't remember off the top of my head. Was it Sam Reinhart who knocked them down and then scored the game-winning goal? Right? Yeah, I feel like that right there could possibly be something that kind of puts this series way ahead for Florida, because he has been one of those guys that has just been a pest. And I remember that, that hit earlier on Rodriguez, and, Florida wasn't happy about that. So, they responded here. Not only did Trouba get knocked down, but Reinhardt then went on to score the game-winning goal. So, I wouldn't put that on the back burner as something to look out for as well.
Look, I understand that I am a connoisseur of the boneless chicken wing, but man, that chicken wing by Trouba though was classic, and I love everyone trying to defend him like as if he's not trying to, like he doesn't know what he's doing. He clearly does. This isn't his first offense. He's guilty of it. So I feel like it was just karma, the hockey gods kind of balancing everything out for us, reminding everybody that if you do stuff like Jacob Trouba does, at some point you're going to get caught. I would have liked him to be suspended, maybe, because throwing a fine at this man at this point means nothing. He's probably paying it cash. I think he walks around probably, I don't know, it's probably got 5K like lying around his sweatpants, kind of rolled up with an elastic just in case he needs. Maybe that's the tip he's leaving for the valet guy at whatever fancy New York establishment he decides to go to. But again, give the Panthers credit. They are a tough team to play against. They've got their little nasty to them. They got that point that they're not going to let you push them around. And the Matt Rempe effect has been literally non-existent. I mean, he's there, I guess, but he hasn't really.
They win when they win when he plays. They've only lost once when he's in the lineup, so it's one of those things. But
I mean, he plays 6 minutes a night. So I don't know how much of an impact he has here. I feel like that's one of just those like meaningless stats. Like you have no idea how it happened, but it did. So like cool. But look, I'm not crying for Trouba. I will say this also. I am old enough to remember when Ranger fans were calling Lafreniere a bust. Kid looks absolutely dominant now. He looks like he's found his groove. He knows how to use his speed, his size in the NHL. He's out there just toe dragging people like it's going out of style, shooting the puck. He's playing with confidence. So this is a friendly reminder to people that you can't judge kids coming into the NHL at 18 years old off like 100 game sample size. Sometimes it takes, like we've been all privileged to watch McDavid and Austin Matthews just come in and tear up the league. We're like, oh, that's what every first overall pick is supposed to do. No, some of them have to grow into being the dominant player that they are. And I think that's what we're starting to see.
Absolutely seeing that. And just to go back to a couple of things you said, first, let's start with Trouba. He's going to cost the Rangers severely at some point because he's actually going to land on one of these hits. He's going to connect. He's going to knock somebody out for the series, whether that's Florida or the next round, and he's going to wake that team up. He's going to be suspended because we all know his reputation. And the Rangers really can't afford they can't afford Trouba to not be playing on that blue line right now. So he's got, I understand you got to play the way you got to play, but like be physical, bring the body, but like stop trying to throw your forearm out at people's heads, dude. Like it's going to cost you in multiple ways. You're going to be taken out for the playoffs. You're going to hurt your team. You're going to hurt somebody else too. We don't even talk about that. It's just, it's not a good idea to play that way. You can't play that way.
And I think that's also a reason why you haven't heard from Rempe yet. I mean, you already have Trouba doing all this damage. You can't lose another player due through something like this. Trouba's one thing, but Rempe, I don't know, man.
I will say about the Rempe factor, and yes, he's only playing 6 and change a night or whatever, but when he does get out on the ice, you do see the Florida Panthers. They cannot resist. They want to go after this guy. They want to take little shots at him. And to his credit, for a young kid, he's handling it. He's not really taking the bait when they do little things after the whistle. So for what, whether you're a full blown Rempe should be in the lineup every night, or whether you're on the other side and like, no, he's not playing. What is 6.5 minutes doing? He is causing a distraction to a team that we all agree is very well coached, one of the best in the league. They are like when he's out there, it is a little bit of a distraction. So it's take it either way there. But the guys from Florida that you expect to contribute are still contributing. Their top performers are still Kachuk, Barkov, or Hagee. A little bit of a slump there, but he seems to maybe have gotten out of that. Reinhardt, he scored the other night. Bobrovsky's doing his thing. All right, how do we see this series going tonight, and how do we see it going the rest of the way here? Because I have no idea. To me, the series, I think whoever wins Game 5 is going to end up winning the series. I will say that.
I don't want to be that guy because I got all this Devils memorabilia here. But I went on with SNY and the New York Post, and I was trying to be as fair as possible. I even gave some praise to some of the Rangers fans still, couldn't resist coming after me. So I feel that I have to become Fuzzy Chris. Well, like how Fuzzy Chris is against Toronto, I feel like I have to be that way. I was told that the Panthers could not win at Madison Square Garden. And what do? They win the first game there, right? I mean, like, I am going to stick with Florida winning this game today and basically ending this series. I think that they'll win in 7 still, but I think they'll win tonight. I think they have a lot of momentum right now. And the Rangers top line, if they're non-existent, they're not winning this. They're just not. They can't go with their top 4 players not scoring goals. They just can't do it. They have gotten lucky, like in Game 3. They got lucky. I mean, Goudreau has been leading this team right now.
He's been fantastic.
So, look, if Florida wins tonight, I still think they win the series. If the Rangers win tonight, I still think Florida can win the series.
All right.
I still think they can.
I will fully embrace the role of being like the hated, like as if I care what Ranger fans have to say to me, right? Like it's whatever kind of thing. I have Florida winning tonight. They're going to close it out in 6 when they go home. The Florida Panthers are a good road team. We've continued to see that. I just like New York's offense is just so, it's not dangerous. It's not dangerous enough. The power play is not dangerous enough. The Rangers are not getting pucks on goal. And I feel like Bobrovsky has a whole other level that he hasn't hit yet. And when he does, it's going to be impossible to score goals. The reason this series is close is because of Igor Shesterkin. He has made this a close game. He's the reason they took Game 3 because New York had no business being part of that game. They looked like they were out late somewhere in Florida partying on one of the Miami nightclubs. So I'm fully in here on the Florida Panthers. They are a good team. They're strong. They're built for this scenario. And I'm looking at the Rangers with all their depth, and I'm like, where are your high danger scoring chances coming from? How are you going to get pucks behind Sergei Bobrovsky? They just haven't done that enough. And I don't trust them even on home ice. They're not a great team at shooting the puck. They don't just come in and try to wire it and get, those sloppy goals, those rebound, those playoff goals. They don't do that. So I have no problem with Florida taking care of it in Game 5. And then you go back home as well. Panthers get the matchup that they want. It's no brainer for me. Easy.
Let's not forget too, after being up 3-0 on Carolina, still winning the series in 6, that series was a lot closer than it appeared to be, even being up 3-0. I think you can't do that. You can't play like that with a team like Florida.
Agreed. Now, it's you guys, if you got Florida in 6, Florida in 7 between the two of you, I'm still going to stick with the Rangers in 7, and here's why. I think getting Hedl on that top line, I think provides them a spark tonight because so they had to get Roslovic out of there. That wasn't working. You couldn't put Wheeler up there because let's face it, he's just lumbering around out there. He does not have the speed to keep up. So your options at that point are Hedl or Kakko. Now, if you want to go balance, you keep Hedl down on the third line, throw Kakko up there. But they don't got time for that. They got to get going, and they got to get going now. So I like the move. If that top line can get going, that's a difference maker. So I got the Rangers winning tonight, Florida taking Game 6, and then the Rangers coming back to a frenzied Madison Square Garden for a Game 7. I was at the Rangers Lightning 2015 Game 7 when the Rangers failed to show up and Tampa took care of business pretty easily. I don't see that going that way again. So I'm going to say I'm going to stick with the Rangers in 7 here, and they'll get the victory tonight.
And that Rangers team, I think, is better than this Rangers team.
I got Howard Bender in the chat here, and I like this idea. Rangers win the series and Murray buy chicken nuggets for everyone. Now, he's probably referring to the boneless wings, but they are actually chicken nuggets, so I'll take them.
Look, let me ask you something, guys. Will this go into overtime again for a 4th straight game?
I hope not. I have a game at 9 o'clock local time tonight, so I can afford one overtime. If it goes beyond that, I got to leave. So I'm hoping my heart can't handle that. I would be nice to see a Rangers win in regulation. I think the odds say regulation, but we'll see.
I hope you don't have a game for a possible clincher. Like, what happens if we're in clinch mode and you got a game that night?
Well, I mean, luckily my season's almost over and I don't think there's any overlap the rest of the way. I have to double check. So as long as we get through tonight, I should be okay.
I just want to kindly remind everybody again that boneless wings are not chicken nuggets. I know we've been through this a couple of times. I will continue to reiterate that, because if Howard's looking for chicken nuggets, I can direct him to the closest McDonald's and he can get a 6, 10, 20 piece chicken nugget, right? A meal, as they call it, with whatever sauce that he enjoys. But they're not the same. Also, who am I buying chicken nuggets for? Like, what is you guys know? But here's the thing, though. Howard doesn't know that we are just patiently waiting for one of these big Wild Wings to start sponsoring us.
Because Howard's trying to help us out with that sponsor.
Buffalo that's right. Wild He's not helping by calling them chicken nuggets. We got to get
Wingstop is probably the way to go. Buffalo Wild Wings is shutting down some restaurants. I don't know if they have the expendable income to throw at guys like us. So I think we should focus our efforts on Wingstop because they are growing.
Wingstop.
So that's where we need to go.
Don't take those comments out of ground that they are boneless chicken wings or chicken wings. We all know this. We've been here. We've done that. Now it's just it's kind of like Leafs Twitter, man. They're just looking for something to stir. It's fine though.
I mean, there's still a good 2 other fan bases we can upset here, with Game 5 being Friday tomorrow between the Oilers and the Stars. That series knotted up at 2 apiece after the Oilers put themselves in a hole in Game 4 and then rallied to come back there and save their season for sure. The thing I want to focus on right now is the Chris Tanev injury. He took a shot off the skate, left the game, did not come back. This is a blue line that's, Tanev has been a very important piece to that blue line in their Stars playoff run, and their depth is like the Rangers is already being tested on the blue line. So if you lose Tanev, that could be enough of an opening of the door for Edmonton to really take control of the series here.
Yeah, he was an empowering force just throughout this series and the 2 wins that Dallas already have. There's no doubt that Edmonton has to win this game. If Tanev is not in the lineup, Edmonton has to win this game and put themselves up, 3-2 here. I looked at the, I think it was the how many points overall in this playoffs. Connor McDavid leads by 28. How much do you think the NHL wants to get Connor McDavid into that Stanley Cup final and have him, win that Conn Smythe trophy, the, face of the NHL? I could just see it right now. He only has 4 goals, but 24 assists. And, he's been playing his butt off with that team. He had the game winner in Game 1. And look, I am looking forward to this. I did switch my position in saying that Dallas was going to win, even though I had Edmonton in the Stanley Cup final, but that was a whole different bracket back then. And Dallas has really showed off here. But I would definitely like Edmonton to get my bracket going, and as well as Florida.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to the Dallas Stars here, because when I fell asleep, it was 2-2, and then I woke up and to my shock, Edmonton has won. Dallas played, they got off to a great start here. 6 minutes into the game, you're up 2-0, you're on the road. Dallas hockey at that point just kind of figure it out. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. And then they just stopped. And then you could see that the Oilers were starting to turn the tide here. And it was all guys yes, your typicals are scoring goals, but when you get goals from guys like Ryan McLeod, good things are going to happen when the bottom 6 starts to contribute. Now you're in big trouble. it doesn't matter how poor Darnell Nurse plays. If you're scoring 5 goals, you're going to be just fine. And the Dallas Stars just did not. There was no reason for them to blow that kind of lead getting off to that start. If you're the road team, you have to survive the first 10 minutes in the opposing barn. Just go in there. Don't make it hard on yourself. Don't get caught. The noise, the crowd, the amp, all that stuff. They got off to a great start. Dallas is a good road team as well. We've seen this before. And then they just utterly collapse. Like, you have Stuart Skinner right on the ropes to start the game, maybe get into his head. Knobloch saying, "Oh my God, here we go again." And then no, they didn't. Coming out of that period 2-2, I felt like that was a big win, huge win for the Oilers, and then they locked it up.
Don't forget about the Jake Attinger stick save, where that was just laying in the crease on the McDavid shot. So I mean, when something like that happens, that can sometimes you just look up to the rafters like, am I going to get a break or not? Like, Jesus, the damn stick is keeping, you know what I mean? And Edmonton still found a way. Corey Perry playing up on that second line. Adam Henrique got back in the lineup a couple of games ago. I think that presence has helped. You mentioned Darnell Nurse. The teammates are saying all the right thing. They believe in him. He plays his ass off, gives it his best every night. But man, they don't even need him to be great. They just need him to be average. That's all they need out of him at this point. You can't even get that.
Sounds like what the Leafs need in goal, and they still can't get that. Darnell Nurse is committing wage theft against the Edmonton Oilers organization with that contract and that kind of production out of him. Like, let's be honest, he's not going to earn his contract. We know that. But, homie, like, you got to be a little bit better than what you're doing right now. And he's not doing it.
Now, this again, another series that we got knotted up after 2 games apiece here. I was coming into game 4. I was almost ready to say, as long as Dallas has a strong showing tonight, I think they're going to close this series out in 6, no problem. But yeah, Edmonton really turned the tide. Stu Skinner made some strong saves. I think, obviously, the series is going back to Edmonton. So I think if Dallas really wants to if they want to close it out, they're going to have to win that 6 game in Edmonton, because I think if Edmonton is allowed to creep back into the series in the game 7, and they've already shown the ability that they can come back even when, quote unquote, the better team has the early lead. This has been a really intriguing series. I think coming up in game 5, I think Dallas finds a way, but I need to know about Chris Tanev first. I need to know if he's playing or not.
Yeah, Edmonton has to win this game if Tanev is out. They win game 5, they have a chance to win this series. If they don't win game 5, I think Dallas takes it.
Chris, what do you got?
That's exceptionally fair. Milo has seen a squirrel, by the way, in case anybody's wondering what the disturbance is.
Sounds about right.
He's not that angry about the fact that Darnell Nurse is just racking in money for the poor performance that he is putting on the ice. I have Dallas making it to the Stanley Cup final. I think they are the more complete hockey team. But, I mean, giving Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl any opportunity to burn you is just not a recipe for success. You cannot give them chances. Like, maybe a stick lying on the ice can stop McDavid once, but that's not the strategy I need here. So I still think Dallas can do it because good teams win. The loss of Chris Tanev is huge, but they also played most of the year without Chris Tanev because he was once upon a time a Calgary Flame. So I feel like they know what they need to do here. It's more of a question of doing it, and it takes a committee to slow down McDavid and the gang. So I think for Dallas is here, it's get that lead and then don't take your foot off the pedal. Keep going. The Oilers you can expose their blue line. You can expose their goalies. Yes, play good defensively, but don't stop. Go out there and really just suffocate them. Put your foot to their throat and just don't give them any hope of coming back. They didn't do that in game 4. Now look where they are.
I'm going to say this. If Tanev is out game 5 and Edmonton wins, Edmonton's got a real chance. But I think Dallas is just still so deep up front. I think they'll be able to compensate for the loss on the blue line in other ways. So I'm going to say I'm still going to stick with the Stars in this series. I'll go 7. I'll say it's going to go the distance. But if, like I said, I think whoever wins game 5 ends up taking the series. But I think Dallas will. Edmonton had to do what they had to do just to get here, where Dallas had to kind of leave the door open for them and let them come back into the game. So I think, again, Dallas still a better team here. I'm still sticking with Dallas to come out in the series. Now, some Stanley Cup hypotheticals wanted to get into. Let's take a look here. So these are just like series matchups here, and I want to present on the screen here so we can all get a look at them. So what we're looking at here, let's see here. So let me scroll down. So that's not the right one I wanted to bring up, but basically, so which matchup you think is going to happen, and then you have the over/under total games if you think somebody's going to win by 2 games, or if you just want to look on the money line. So, looking at some of those on the screen there. Let's start with you, Chris. What matchup do you think we're going to head at this point? It sounds like you got a Florida Dallas matchup.
I do. I'm sticking with that. I'm sticking to my guns. I think the Florida Panthers are the better team. I think the Dallas Stars are the better team. At one point, they will meet the Stanley Cup final. They will go like, I don't know, at least 6 games. I mean, probably 7. But I picked the Florida Panthers to win the Stanley Cup. I believe that whatever team wins in the East, like whoever advances between Florida and Rangers, are going to win the Stanley Cup. I just don't see the Western Conference team being capable of keeping up here. So to me, it's a question of whether it's Florida or New York. And I think it can be the Florida Panthers. I do enjoy here that they have like Florida on like plus 1.5 here, because I would probably flip it the other way and say like if anything, like Florida can win it in 6. I think that would be pretty good. But if I'm going to get Florida here at a slight discount because people think Dallas is a better team, like I'll gladly take it.
When you look at the board here, what's one that you like here, Ant? Because I mean, you got Florida winning the series, and it sounds like Dallas as well. So what would you like that's on the board here?
The one that I want is what I had in my bracket, which was Florida Edmonton. But as Dallas has progressed, they've been the better team, and I do see, like Chris, Florida, Dallas, and again, I agree with Chris saying that whoever comes out of the East will win the Stanley Cup. I will say this: I think that the NHL, and for TV purposes, Rangers, Edmonton would be a nice series. You got the best hot player in all of hockey, and it's the New York Rangers. I mean, like you cannot ask for a bigger series to showcase in the Stanley Cup than to have those teams. And you know what? Edmonton is to me, out of the 4 teams, is probably 4th. But when you got McDavid, who's the best player in hockey, when you got Draisaitl and you got Hyman and that high-powered offense that they have, and then you talk about the New York Rangers and the history and all that stuff, I think that series would be what the NHL is probably, and which is probably they're probably hoping for.
It can't be true because Gary hates Canada, by the way.
So here's the thing.
But they can go to the Stanley Cup. They just can't win it.
Unacceptable.
So here's the thing. From a ratings perspective, the NHL is absolutely rooting for the Rangers because you want the New York market. You want the New York ratings built in. Canadian, as exciting as McDavid would be, Edmonton ratings do not count on, for Nielsen, and, and the fact that they still go with that system is, antiquated at this point. But nonetheless, yeah, it's an exciting matchup, but they want Dallas for the United, because people in Canada are going to watch a Stanley Cup no matter what. So for the most part. So,
but you don't think that, the casual fan that, knows Connor McDavid would kind of tune in here?
No, they would tune in, but again, it's, when it's New York versus Dallas, and Dallas is a pretty big market itself. So that also is a decent rating number.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have to consider the fact that the Mavericks are also going deep in the NBA playoffs. There's only so much sports that people can watch night in and night out. So, maybe, if the Mavericks, it looks like they're going to beat the Timberwolves at this point and get there, but so I don't know how that factors into as well, but they want New York, Florida, Edmonton. Not that it'll be a ratings disaster, but that would not be the numbers they were hoping for, unless it's a pleasant surprise, because the NHL ratings have overall been climbing over the last couple of years. For me to pick off the board now, I know I got the Rangers winning the series, but I'll say this: if it's Florida, Edmonton, I don't like that matchup for the Oilers at all. I would be very tempted to take the Panthers, at minus a game and a half, saying that they're going to win the series in 6 or less at plus 168. So if it is a Florida Edmonton matchup, I do like that one a lot. Trying to stay true to my picks. the Rangers would, be plus money versus either of those West teams right now. So that would be my, pick depending upon who comes out of the West. But I do think that minus a game and a half plus 168 is very juicy. It's very nice.
I feel like Dallas has enough, right? Like the Mavericks are going to go deep as well. Have it like the Texas Rangers have won, Houston Astros as well. Like if only the Cowboys could be decent, that'd be like, the trifecta here. But it's just like Dallas has had enough. You know what I mean? Like it feels like that era of like Boston, like when the Celtics and the Patriots were winning the Bruins. Like it's just too much in one spot. You know what I mean? Like I don't like that. Let's spread the wealth out a little bit here. So
I mean, if the Knicks had advanced, I mean, not they were still banged up, and the Celtics probably beat them anyway. But the New York almost kind of got there with a team in each. So, Boston Bruins went out last round, but they almost got there too. But no, yeah, I mean, if Dallas, gets a couple of championships this year, then like, all right, enough. And I know Ant's a Cowboys fan, so I mean, you don't have to worry about them winning anytime soon. But
I've really stopped watching football because of the Dallas Cowboys. I've really lost a lot of interest. I've lost a lot of interest in the NFL because of the Cowboys, because they're always a playoff contender, but they don't do enough to get them over the top. Kind of like Toronto almost, right? I mean,
I was going to say, if you start supporting the Leafs, man, you might be like the saddest person on the planet all year round.
Yeah, I can only do the sadness for one team, and that's the Mets, and that will be it. I can't continue. I can't do it all year round and watch, Cowboys. Maybe I'll tune in. I always tune in for Thanksgiving game and all that stuff. But like as soon as they get to the playoffs, I know it's already going to happen, and I just sit back with my, my Wingstop wings, hint, hint, and that's all I could do is just sit back and watch this team blow it up.
As a Jet fan, I certainly get the, you only really have room for one team that's a perennial disappointment that is going to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory and all that good stuff. So I get that.
It's like two different sides of the coin, right? Being a Cowboy, like the Cowboys will go to the playoffs, but then they won't get out of the first round. The Jets, they'll get there every so often, but everything comes to being like the Jets, Mets together, the Cowboys, Maple Leafs. It's like the perfect pairing. In comparison,
Cowboys or Mets, who gets a championship first?
You know what? Honestly, I've been doing a lot of soul searching this past week. I don't even know if the Mets are going to be ready by 2027, like this team may need, and I'm sorry to diverge into baseball. This team may need a serious rebuild. And I'm talking about like wiping the whole slate clean, because what's been like going on over this past week,
Chicago Blackhawks rebuild kind of thing. Strip a shot home.
Yep.
Okay. Or
there you go. Subway to Shea podcast. There you go. If you want more, it's buzzing. It's going today and all week long with all the Mets news. So there you go.
And when we're buzzing today, we got 195 people on Twitter checking this out right now.
We got a strong one today. We appreciate everybody watching and tuning in. You got the Rangers game coming up in a little bit. Stars, Oilers tomorrow, Game 5. And I got to say, if you're not a fan of the 4 teams remaining, you've gotten a very good conference final so far. Like it's been entertaining. It's going to go 6 games on both sides, so you're going to get a long series. It's been a best case scenario for the conference finals, and hopefully that continues tonight for the Rangers.
Does that mean that now the Stanley Cup's going to be a clunker? It's going to like end in a sweep or 5 games or something?
I hope not. I mean, last year was a short series. I mean, the Panthers kind of ran out of steam against the Golden Knights last year, but just give me a longer series this year. I mean, it was a closer series than some a 5-game series would make you think, but yeah, it was still. Vegas didn't really have to worry too much. Now we got been doing a Conn Smythe odd check-in every week here. Just pick a player that you think has got the best chance right now based on the odds and all that stuff, and you can see those scrolling across the screen right there. So yeah, from the Stars, your top 4 are Jake Oettinger, makes sense. Miro Heiskanen, Wyatt Johnston, whose odds have kind of gone down a little bit, and Jason Robertson, who has got on the board after his Game 3 hat trick. And then for the Rangers right now, it's Shesterkin and Trocheck and not much else. And even Trocheck's a bit of a long shot at plus 2,500. I think we'd all agree if the Rangers have a Conn Smythe winner right now, it is Igor Shesterkin. Florida got 4 guys there that are plus 3,000 or better with Verhaeghe, Bobrovsky, Kachuk, and Barkov. And then for Edmonton, Bouchard's another plus 3,000, but McDavid at plus 550. Leon Draisaitl at plus 950. And we had talked about winners by position. I went and looked that up. So the center position is won 19 times, goalie 17, defenseman 12, and then a winger 10. So keeping all that in mind, let's go around the room here or around the stream and let's pick a Conn Smythe winner with the odds here. Chris, I'm going to start with you.
I like how you pick goalies because I think only 3 have won it in like the last 10 or 12 years. Vasilevsky being one, and then there are 2 others that I don't really care for because I was trying to.
Tim Thomas in 2011, Jonathan Quick 2012.
There you go. So
and then Cam Ward in 2006. Before that, John Sebastian Jaguar 2003 on the losing effort. And then Patrick Roy got it in there. But then it was a while. If you
my apologies to Jonathan Quick and Tim Thomas for not caring. But to me, I feel like it might be tough for a goalie to get it just because of that recency of not kind of wanting to give it to those. I still have money on Wyatt Johnson doing it because he just seems like he knows. Even if Jason Robertson has come to life, cool, but he hasn't done it enough to really merit it. My money would go there to Wyatt Johnson. If I was looking for something maybe a little bit safer, Alexander Barkov, I feel like at one point he's just gonna clean it up. There are so many good Florida skaters who could get it, and I know sometimes people think that's gonna kind of spread the votes out, but Alexander Barkov is just so good at everything. He is a big reason why his team is here. Yes, Bobrovsky has been good. Yes, Tkachuk has been good. Yes, Reinhart has been good, but man, I feel like that team is very, very different without Alexander Barkov in the lineup. And if I just want to play it to the safest of my abilities, I mean, Connor McDavid seems like a pretty decent bet there. I feel like that's an easy 20, hoping that it turns around. Because let's be honest, if Edmonton makes it that far, McDavid's got what, close to 50 points in the playoffs. So it just seems like something he would just rack up in his collection.
What do you got, Ant?
I'm gonna go with Matthew Tkachuk. He's got 19 points right now. I think that the fact that he did not get to play well towards the end of last year's Stanley Cup, I think he's going to figure that out, especially because he got hurt. But I think he's going to be the guy to take it. If it's going to be a goalie, it's going to be Igor Shesterkin, right? I mean, if the Rangers win the Cup, I can't see Trocheck being that guy over Igor, especially with Chris and saying how well he played and kept this team in the series against Florida. If he continues to do that, they win. They go to the Stanley Cup, win the Stanley Cup. I think it's going to be Igor. That would be my goalie pick. But I'm going to stick with Matthew Tkachuk because I still think Florida's going to win the Stanley Cup.
Like I said at the top, if the Rangers get there and win, it's Shesterkin. I'm going to go, if it's Florida, I would go Carter Verhaeghe. I'll take a long shot there. The guy's got a knack for scoring those. He had the overtime winner in game 4. Guy has a knack for doing that in the playoffs. He's tied for second in goals scored. So it's kind of like a Jonathan Marchessault type last year. I could see Verhaeghe being that type this year. Strong points about Barkov and Tkachuk, and if it's Edmonton, it's got to be McDavid or Draisaitl. It's probably McDavid would have to have a bad series to probably not win it. I think that if he gets there and they win it, there's no way he doesn't get it. It makes too much sense. They need it goes in line.
There's also so many Edmonton Oilers at the top of the leaderboard when it comes to points to choose from, right? I mean, you got McDavid, Draisaitl, Bouchard, you got Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, you got Hyman. Obviously, they're going to go with McDavid here. I mean, it would be just fitting for, like I said, the best player in hockey, if he wins the Stanley Cup, to get that award.
I'll say this: if it's Dallas, I like Wyatt Johnston, like Chris, because he plays when he's hot, he's hot. He has 3 games where he's just setting the world on fire. And Conn Smythe winners, you can value consistency. When you have those 2-3 game stretches where you can't be stopped and you're scoring a goal and 2 assists, 2 goals next game, like the way Johnston can do, that sometimes can vault you right up to the top. So, still plenty of time to figure out, who's going to get there. And we'll check in with the Conn Smythe odds every week, right through the Stanley Cup Finals here on Total Hockey Now. We just got the 200 total. So thank you for all 200 that are watching. And let's go through a little quick hits here before we get to mask off to wrap the show. First and foremost, congrats to Minnesota of the Professional Women's Hockey League. Liz Shepard scored to break the scoreless tie in the second period. Shelkava made it 2-0, and then Kendall Schofield added the empty netter for the first ever Walter Cup awarding there, and a 3-0 victory over Boston that went the full 5 games. So talk about in a long series, certainly got your entertainment's worth there. Nicole Hensley stopped 17 shots from Minnesota, and shout out to Boston goalie Aaron Frankel, aka the Green Monster, who made 41 saves in the loss. Certainly not her fault. Good news, it was a sold-out crowd. The league has shown the ability to grow. They're going from 24 to 30 games on the schedule next year, and the Toronto franchise already needs to find a bigger home. They've already outgrown their 2,500-seat arena in year 1. So good to see the Women's Hockey League, having a good first season and having a nice thing to build on for season 2.
Good for the Toronto team. If you know what's good though for the Toronto team, like if they keep doing like they do and they make the playoffs, they'll be able to play where the Leafs do, because the Leafs aren't making it out of the first round. So that arena is like it's open. It's open. You don't even have to play with the Marlies. Why would you play there? Go straight downtown, where everything is there. Ripley's Aquarium, the tall tower there. I forget what it's called now. But there's a whole bunch of the CN Tower. Sorry. There's a whole bunch of great things to do downtown. Just let them walk in. That's it. Leafs started doing anything past like May 1st.
Second week in April. Yeah, usually
second week of April at best if they push it to 7. But I mean, look, golf courses will open up around May 1st, and Marner and Matthews and Willie, they all got to get out there early, breaking those new round of golf clubs. So there's lots of space for the Toronto professional team if they want to hang out.
Yeah, that one thing that I did read is that the New York franchise, their New York area-based franchise, was the only one that had struggled with attendance, but they also split it up. A third of the schedule was in Connecticut, a third was in Jersey, and a third was in Long Island. So, I mean, I understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to, hit into all 3 areas. No. Pick Long Island. Go to Long Island because, let's face it, in New York, you have a lot of entertainment options. So getting people to go out for a women's pro sports event is not going to, you have more competition there. You go out in Long Island where it's more families based. You're looking for a Sunday afternoon, things to do on a weekend. I think that's the way to go, and just trying to put all your eggs in one basket and see if you could build a following that way.
Strongly disagree. Have you been to Long Island?
Yeah, bro. I lived in Brooklyn
exactly.
for years.
So I have as well. Not an enjoyable experience to get there. First of all, traffic in New York is obviously bad. But nobody's traveling out to the middle of wherever the Islanders used to play at Nassau. That is,
but for the people, there's a large population out there, and they don't want to always go all the way to the city or Jersey to do things. So it goes both ways.
But again, I'm not going to Long Island. I will say that I don't know, play somewhere close. I'm not saying it has to be MSG, but there are lots of options that are.
Well, I think you could consider Barclays. That's another one, but I don't know if they want to deal with hockey again. So I mean, that's
plays at Barclays for basketball, which is the
Nets play there.
The Nets. So the Nets are eliminated anyway. So there you go. There's all this prime real estate is not being taken by subpar basketball and hockey teams. Just rent it out to them, make some quick money, let the attendance and everything. There you go. See? There you go.
We solved the problem. So give it a shot next season.
My apologies to the folks who live in Long Island, though, but you guys know it's true. Don't.
Some would not disagree. Next up, we got the former AHL affiliate of the Arizona Coyotes announced on Tuesday that the team will play at least 30 games in Tucson Arena next season, thwarting owner Alex Marullo's plans to move the team to Mullet Arena in Tempe. So the Rio Nuevo District's board of directors voted 9-0 to keep the team in town. So the Roadrunners, they're still going to play a handful of games up in Mullet Arena. You got to try, and I talked about this on Rip and Riff yesterday. You still got to do something for the Coyotes fans up there. But kudos to Tucson to saying, no, you're not taking our team. We support our team. We go and we follow our team. We go to the games. Just because you messed up doesn't mean we have to lose our team. So good for them.
It's honestly shocking to see, Arizona residents wanting to keep a hockey team in a city. So shout out to, the people of Tucson for being like, hey, we will support this. The Coyotes, they did not. And I guess Marullo was trying to, like you said, keep the fans happy a little bit in Tempe and try to keep that vibe going. But again, I can't imagine if you're like, well, what if you're a season ticket holder and what you got to travel up? I don't know how far it is, but I'm assuming
it's a 2-hour drive, about 2 and change.
2 hours. Okay, so it's kind of like going to Long Island. So I don't want to do that. So I can't imagine anybody wanting to go from Tucson to Tampa and being like, hey, this will be fun.
It's a nice drive. I've done it a couple of times. It's a pretty drive. But yeah, I agree. I mean, and Tucson is where the University of Arizona is, so you have that there. So you got a minor league team. I believe I know they used to do spring training down there, but I think that everybody moved up to the Phoenix complex as of like maybe 10, 15 years ago. But yeah, I mean, just because they lost Phoenix lost their team due to mismanagement doesn't mean that Tucson, which the Roadrunners is that dates back to all the way to WHA days, that franchise name. So the Roadrunners have been a part of the Arizona hockey scene forever. So good to see them staying there. And I believe they're still going to be the affiliate of Utah. So there's still that connection. Now, speaking of Utah, on the Pat McAfee show, the Utah hockey owner, he let 2 of the Final 4 option names split on the show, or spilled them on the show, I should say. He mentioned the Mammoth, he mentioned the Yeti, and there was a site that took a straw poll that went along with the team survey that was sent out for the team name. So the other names that did high on the straw poll, so you can assume that they correlate to the other 2 missing names. You had the Outlaws and the Blizzard. Black Diamonds also appeared on a chunk of ballots. So you've got 2 confirmed, and we don't know the other 2 yet. It's not going to be revealed until midseason. They're going to play with just, it's Chris's favorite, Utah, diagonally across the jersey, and they're going to reveal what the actual team name sometime during the season, which I get because you can't really rush that rollout. You want to get it right. You want to do it right the first time. So, I think that's all right. That they're just going to go into the season as Utah Hockey or whatever, and then they'll reveal the name somewhere mid-season.
Get that Yeti on the jersey now. Get it right on there right now. That's the name I'm going with. Unless they take the S off of Outlaw and make it Utah Outlaw and do a little play on that name. But I'm going Yeti. I like that.
I feel like Black Diamond's a cheese brand. Like that can't be.
It's a Kiss song.
I'm not that old. Sorry.
No, it's not Black Diamonds. It's not that for sure.
I mean, Yetis is like, it's okay, but it feels like Mighty Ducks. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I would go with Blizzard. Like that's a very popular hockey team name, even for like minor hockey and stuff like that. And I don't know how many Blizzards are happening in Utah, but I feel like that's the best name. The others are just, they don't do it for me.
If you have Dairy Queens out there, they have the Blizzard. You score more than 4 goals in a game, everybody gets a free small Blizzard. I mean, it writes itself.
I definitely enjoy Dairy Queen. I actually have their app on my phone because you can pre-order and you can get some rewards out of it. So shout out to Dairy Queen. I usually go in, get the Blizzard of the month, whatever they're offering, unless it's got like peanuts or something. No. But if not, it's like cookie dough with like chunks of brownie and stuff. And I'm more than happy. More than happy.
All right, so I'm going to take Black Diamonds out right away. I'm going to take Blizzard and Yeti out right away because the guy, and we've talked about this before, the Colorado Avalanche are 1 state over. Are you really going to take a snowy kind of name when you got one right next door? I think it's a little too close geographically and a little too close with the overlap of the name. So that leaves the Mammoth and the Outlaws, and I like both of those. I think Outlaws would be really cool. I think the Mammoth is something kind of unique, and I think they could have a lot of fun with the logo. The mascot, you can make them look like Snuffleupagus from Sesame Street or something like that. So I'm a Mammoth guy. With the Outlaws is like my all right, I'd be happy with that one too. Like both of those, I'd be tempted to buy a hat, a shirt, something like that.
Mammoth just reminds me of like the movie Ice Age, so I'm like, no, but I think it would be cool to have like the Colorado Avalanche versus the Utah Blizzard, like which storm is worse kind of thing. That would be okay with it.
Like you got the Subway Series in New York, you call it the Snow Out Series, there. I mean,
look at that. We're just providing free ideas to Ryan
Doesn't
Smith.
Colorado have a hat or a patch with the foot of the Yeti on there or something?
Yeah, that's their secondary. It was their secondary logo on the sleeve forever. Was the the footprint of the abominable.
They still have it.
I don't know if I don't think they still use it.
I saw someone when they got eliminated from the playoffs had that hat on during the post game presser.
Might be. Then maybe it's trademark infringement there. So.
I'm going Mammoth or Outlaws. I think those are the 2 that I would pick, and I we'll see what happens here. Like we said, we're not going to know colors or anything like that till mid-season, so it'll be fun to see. And it's good that I know losing a hockey team sucks, and now they have an owner that's actually going to put money into the team, and it's going to kind of be like a Cleveland Browns, Baltimore Ravens thing. When the Browns left, the Ravens went on to become one of the best defenses of all time, win Super Bowls. They're still a team that you have to worry about in the AFC all these years later, year in and year out. So, but it'll be cool to see the new mascot, jerseys, the logo, and having an owner that's actually going to spend money on this team and actually try and make them compete in the Central Division.
I'm going to wait for the jersey to come out and the name. I want to see what this was all about first. If not, they can continue to finish at the bottom of the conference. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I don't got a real dog in the fight in that division. I just want to, see a team succeed that has
You have no mammoth in this fight. You're right. There's nothing.
It won't say Utah across, but it will say mammoth going down that way.
I mean, if they're gonna, that's a waste. They do that. Now we since the last time we were with you guys, a lot of coaching vacancies have been filled, or we haven't talked about them. So let's just run through them quick. Kings removed the interim tag off of Jim Hiller. Sheldon Keefe was hired by the Devils. Jets promoted Scott Arniel to head coach. The Seattle Kraken promoted Dan Bilesma from Coachella Valley to Seattle. They are in the Western Conference Finals of the AHL against the Milwaukee Admirals right now. The only position that's still vacant is the San Jose Sharks. And if you look around online, it seems like it's down to the AHL's Ontario Reigns Marco Sturm, the Kings affiliate there, got them to the second round this year. Former Red Wings head coach and current assistant with John Cooper, Jeff Blashill. And then Ryan Moravsky, who was an assistant on the staff last year with David Quinn. He ran the penalty kill in the defense. I mean, I know the talent wasn't necessarily there. It was the fifth worst penalty kill in the league. But, I guess that they want to have a candidate that at least knows the guys in the room right now. So, I mean, those are the three that are rumored to be the finalists. So we didn't get to get your reaction too much, Ant, on the Devils hiring Sheldon Keefe. That was one of the two guys you had along with Jay Woodcroft. So what was your reaction?
I'm happy about it. If you look at just what he's done in Toronto, 3 straight 100-point seasons, second fastest to 200 career wins, led Toronto to 5 Stanley Cup postseason appearances. He won the Calder Cup in 2018. And, he's the 5th winningest coach out of 40 for the Toronto Maple Leafs. You believe that?
I mean, yeah. They win a lot in the regular season, sure.
I'll take that, though. I want this team to start winning again. Every once in a while going to the playoffs, I don't like that. So this team needs to figure themselves out, and maybe Sheldon Keefe might be the right guy for it. But like I said during the last time we were talking about all these vacancies, this is great that they got Sheldon Keefe. Now go get me a goalie.
That's the next thing on the Devils checklist for sure. And I mentioned this when we talked with Jared about it over on Rip and Riff. I think Sheldon Keefe just getting out of Toronto and going somewhere where he can be a hockey coach and still go to the grocery store and not, get berated about a line change he made or a pairing change he made or something like that. So I think that alone in itself makes him a better coach because he can just do his job without, 30 people analyzing every time he blinks.
Yeah. I will say this, though. He did post a thank you video to Toronto, and the fans from the comments seem to have loved Sheldon Keefe. So, good for us. Bad for Toronto. Let's see because they still need a goalie on top of now the head coaching problem that they had. I
mean, they hired Berube, and I think that's
that's right. That's right.
So I think they, if you have a softer spoken guy and you make a change, usually go to the opposite end of the spectrum. Berube, I mean, they already got a cup of coffee with Mitch Marner to talk with him. So we'll see what happens with Berube in Toronto. But Chris, you were a guy that you had Jim Hiller staying as the Kings head coach, I believe.
I mean, I don't know why the Kings waited so long to take his intern tag off. I feel like the Kings, they went out, they dated, couldn't get anybody to the match. They're like, what, we'll just keep the one who's here. And then I can't imagine they didn't go through a search for something. And I guess maybe they didn't like what was there. Or, anyways, I'm hoping Hiller does a good job because, why not? You know what I mean? It's good for the Kings. The Kings are a decent team. I don't think that the Kings are going to go into that rebuild because you didn't go into last year going to acquire like Kevin Fiala and stuff like that. Like you didn't go and acquire Kevin Fiala to be a bad hockey team. You know what I mean? Like you thought you could push. And I guess maybe this team just like they underperformed, and that
Pierre
happens in
Dubois.
hockey.
And that's the other thing. They made the move for Pierre-Luc Dubois, another sign of like, hey, we're going for it. We want to compete. And that just
you don't go get those guys because you're looking to like hard rebuild. So I mean, I have to figure they're trying to win, and they figured Hiller is the best fit to it. I have no problem with it. I just thought it was interesting that they didn't take the tag off and they were still leaving it on, and other teams were signing coaches, and they were just like, So I'm pretty sure they kicked the bucket on a couple, and this is what they settled with.
I like the move for promoting Arniel and Winnipeg. I mean, they were a strong team this year. You know, the coach retired. It's not like you fired him because you needed, like the coach was like, all right, I'm done. You know, and kudos to Rick Bowness. He's had quite the career. So I don't think you really want to change things too much up in that locker room. So I think promoting from within makes sense there. You know, Seattle, same thing. You got a guy who's taken, you know, an AHL team in year 2 or 3, who's going to potentially have them playing for, you know, the championship for the Calder Cup there. So we'll see what happens with, you know, I think that's the right move for Seattle. Speaking of Seattle, Jessica Campbell, who is an assistant on Biles's staff in Coachella Valley, she could potentially become a first female NHL assistant coach of any kind on a NHL bench. So that's a possibility. Maybe she could take over. She gets the Coachella Valley job. Season's over. So I think that'll be interesting there to see if that potentially happens. A lot of good things happening in women's hockey. Now, speaking of the Sharks, you know, we talked about the coaching vacancies earlier. Will Smith signed his entry-level contract with San Jose. I would expect him to at least get his 9 games in the South Bay to start the year. And I think it's, you know, I understand that you don't want to burn a year of a guy's entry-level contract of that talent on a team that you know is not going to the playoffs. I do think, for as much as I, you know, crapped on the Sharks fans this year for not being patient in the rebuild, you do owe him. I think you owe him a little something here, and to have, you know, if Macklin Celebrini is going to be expected to play as a top overall pick right away. William Eklund played well last year. We got a little bit of a taste of like what's to come for the Sharks and their prospects. I think you got to play Will Smith the whole year up there. He was very strong for the Boston College Eagles last year. And I think you just let him and Celebrini and Eklund and all these guys start to build that chemistry now. You're still going to be a bad team. You're still not going to make the playoffs, but you can at least be a fun to watch bad team. They weren't a fun to watch bad team this last year. Now that's the next step, I think, in the rebuild.
I don't think he goes back. Like if he doesn't, since he signed his contract, he'd have to go to the AHL. I can't imagine him reporting to the Barracuda and doing anything of importance there. It's not like the Sharks have a ton of players that are taking up space for Will Smith. And like you said, pairing him with Macklin Celebrini, at least there's something you can work with there. Like there's a future. And if anything, it helps put some rear ends in some seats. And that's not a bad thing for a market that is not, you know, it's a good market, but it's not New York, it's not Toronto, it's not Montreal. So you have to try to sell tickets to fans and say, hey, come watch this. There's something here. The same way that, you know, we look at the Chicago Blackhawks being who they are, but Connor Bedard was still there and he could sell a ticket. So, you know, good for Will Smith. I don't think he had anything else to prove in college hockey. So I think makes more sense than anything. Sign his entry-level contract. He can go hang out by what I hear is not the great beaches of San Jose, but at least he's not living in the cold of Boston. So
go to Santa Cruz when you get to San Jose. That's where the beaches start to get nice again. Go south, go towards, you know, Half Moon Bay that way. You know, that's actually north of San Jose at that point. But down to Monterey, right? You go down to Monterey. It's beautiful down there. That's where you need to be hanging out if you're not going to go all the way to Southern California.
If Will Smith needs beach information, Adam has got you.
And I mean, all the Fresh Prince references we're going to get this year. I mean, that alone is worth keeping them up in the, you know, getting jiggy with it, all that stuff. Going to be fun. Now it's come to the time on the show. We either do a little sweater weather or a little mask off. We're going to go mask off 2 weeks in a row. And it's a battle of Eagles. And we got a former Oilers goalie and a former Stars goalie. We got Eddie the Eagle Belfour, of course, played with the Blackhawks. He's had a stop with the Sharks, played with a few other teams, but also won his Stanley Cup with the Dallas Stars. The iconic Eddie the Eagle mask. It's the same look on both sides, with the team colors corresponding to whatever team he was on at the time. So obviously a more red dominant mask with the Blackhawks, teal when he was with the Sharks. Then on your left, you got the Bulin wall, Nikolai Khabibulin there. So you got the double eagle, the Russian flag. So that's where your 2 eagles are coming in there. You got the Bulin wall on the chest, on the chin piece right there. You got the oil derrick with the logo in the middle. And then as a shout out to former Edmonton Oilers goalie Grant Fuhr on each side of the mask area. You got within the talons of each eagle. You got both of Grant Fuhr's Oilers masks from back in the 80s. So 2 eagle masks here, fellas. Which one are you going to wear? Buy? Which is your preference here?
I will say this though: the Ed Belfour is the better eagle one. So if you're asking me to answer the question of it, that is the one. The Nikolai Khabibulin one is pretty good though. I know it may have like a lot going on, but like the tribute to Grant Fuhr and stuff, I guess it's an igloo behind it, the eagle on top, and everything. The Bulin wall. That to me, like that's an enjoyable one. The colors and everything is great. Nothing wrong with the Ed Belfour one because it is clearly an eagle, and it is great. It is basic. It's iconic. Like you could show somebody who obviously follows hockey, you show them the mask, and you know exactly. It's kind of like Curtis Joseph and his Cujo mask. You know exactly who owned it. But for me, it's the Nikolai Khabibulin.
We're going to have Cujo on a future edition of this because Cujo's masks is just one of the best of all time, period.
Look, being called Eddie the Eagle and having that, kind of plain but classic type mask, very nice. I like the more artistic, look and approach of the Khabibulin one. I would always choose something like that over the more plain one, so I'm going with Khabibulin on this one. I think that's just a beautiful, like all the way around. It's just a beautifully done, how they fit all that stuff from the wall to the two masks and then the eagle. That's and I think there's also fireworks on the top of that. It looks like.
Yeah, so it looks like, no, that's oil actually coming out of the oil derrick. So that's what that looks like there. Those are like orange colored oil drops, basically spewing
Beautiful
out
still.
the top. So I agree the eagle is better on Ed's mask, but the overall mask is better on Khabibulin. But I am a fan of that era where a goalie's mask was a part of his identity. And like, I love Henrik Lundqvist. He's one of my favorite goalies of all time, one of my favorite Rangers of all time. And yes, he's got the iconic 30 look that he has on the chin usually. But I mean, like Mike Richter, you knew that Liberty mask. That was him. And I understand nowadays you can have a special mask for an outdoor game, a stadium series game, or win a classic, or whatever the case may be. And yes, they take these masks and they sign them and they auction them off for charity. And it's great. But I'm a big fan of that era where a goalie had a mask and that was part of his identity. Curtis Joseph being one. Patrick Waugh's mask was simple with Montreal, but it was the same mask forever there. I got to go Eddie Belfour, the Eddie the Eagle. I mean, he really that concept out of the box. I love the gold and green kind of shades there, matching what the Dallas Stars look at the time. Any of Eddie Belfour's masks, even with Toronto when it's blue and white, they all look sharp. I got to go Ed Belfour here.
I don't know why. Like for goalies, they can paint masks. I don't know why there's not more like, I don't know, skates for like players or sticks or something. I feel like goalies have a little bit of creativity in it. Same thing with their equipment. They can kind of get it to match and whatnot and do all these fun things. I feel like for a player, we got nothing. We got nothing to design. Like maybe, I don't know, skates that like a player wears and no matter what team they go, like maybe the color pattern changes, but it stays like, that.
I do like I mean, with the sponsors and stuff, and everybody's got to look uniform, like, so you can't have like personality on the helmets or anything. But I do like that they're getting away from like white jersey, white helmet, and like, okay, you're wearing your white jersey, but like, okay, the Hurricanes, red's their prominent color or primary color, so they're going to wear the red helmet with the white jersey. Sharks were doing that with the teal. I like that contrasting, and more teams need to do that because I think it looks sharp and it looks better. If you're not going to go back to white jerseys at home, color jerseys on the road. So when, the Red Wings come to town, I could see red. When the Maple Leafs come to town, I could see blue and not just see the same damn white jerseys coming through every night. Till you change that, I think that's at least a nice stopgap of having the colored helmets with the white jerseys. That's cool.
I think these uniform things are just like outdated, man. Someone's got to rewrite the rules here. Let some creativity come out. You know what I mean? Like in basketball, you can wear like they're Jordans, but they're all like different and you can design them customly, or the same thing in football with the cleats. That's some creativity in that. And some players would be able to like really style it up. and make them like really, really nice. Like first things that come to mind are like Austin Matthews and Willie Nylander. Like I want to see those two, whatever they're rocking, like custom designs or something. I don't know.
I also think there can be too much with jerseys sometimes. Like you see it with baseball and basketball and football, not so much. I mean, now they're relaxing the rules with football and with the helmets and stuff. So that's going to just increase the amount of combinations. But I like, you got a dark, you got a white, and then a third. And then that's really what it should be. And then you can kind of mix and match from that. That's cool. But I kind of like the simplicity there. I not too many options, but yeah, it would be nice if players, besides, whatever their stick sponsor it is or whatever, could show a little more, personality to whatever they're wearing.
Adam is yelling from his porch, holding his coffee, that he wants it to be these three. And the minute he will tolerate different mismatch colors for the helmet and the jersey, but that is as far as we are going today. That is it.
That is it. Baby steps. We're not going crazy here.
Slowly introduce it into him. That's it. We'll allow the helmet and the three jerseys, but that's it. There's no Hockey Connect jerseys for him. He's like, get this out of here.
Oh, the
reverse retros for hockey.
It's just the City Connects and stuff like it. It's all a scam just to make more money because everybody goes to that phase. All hockey fans do. We're like, oh, I got to buy a new jersey because they have a new jersey this year, a new player, and you do it and all that, and then you realize I have a closet full of jerseys of guys that didn't play for more than X amount of years with. So it's like, no, I can't.
You know what else is a scam? Buying second round playoff series tickets for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Wow. Somebody ever comes up to you and offers you to, second round playoff tickets for the Toronto Maple Leafs, that's how you know it's a scammer, right? Maybe, the website on your phone doesn't look good, but if it's as high, you've won tickets to the second round. Oh man, that's a scam.
So at Fuzzy Chris 91, if you want to, if you had any comments on that on Twitter, you can get at him there. And also, again, we had well over 200 people tune in today. That was awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Whether you're watching live or you're going to watch on the replay later, you can see on the bottom of the screen there, Total Hockey Now, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Give us a follow, a like, a subscribe, all that good stuff. But I think we had a nice, solid episode. We got a Game 5 of Rangers-Panthers dropping the puck here in just about 2 hours. Looking forward to that. And don't forget, we talked a little Subway to Shea earlier today with all the Met stuff going on. You can follow that whole fiasco in Flushing, Queens, right there at Subway to Shea. There's your headline, the fiasco in Flushing. And then also Chris's Slapshot podcast there as well. Of course, Rip and Riff, new episode out yesterday with myself and at Mr. Jared Moore. But we're at Ant Rivera 86 and at Fuzzy Chris 91. I am at Pucking Thoughts. Be back with you next week. Here, preview the Stanley Cup Finals on Total Hockey Now.